So welcome to our session today. We're going to be talking about collaborative content creation, which many people are looking to now do, but it doesn't come without its pitfalls. So we're going to be talking through some methodologies. But first, let's introduce ourselves. David, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Kirstie. My name is David Hepworth. I am the Learning Technology and Design Lead at Aviva.
Great. And I'm Kirstie Greany, and I'm Head of Customer Learning at Elucidat. I'm a learning consultant by background and have worked with lots of enterprise organisations over the last 20 years. So we're going to be talking about collaborative content creation, as I've already mentioned. And you might have heard it in different ways. So employee-generated content, or ground-up learning. The idea that learning is not only just for everybody in organisations, but it can also be created by anyone in an organisation. But of course, it's not an easy model to grapple with. It does come with some pitfalls. And so today we're going to talk about, well, David's going to talk actually about some of the challenges that are going on for L&D teams and why you might even want to have a look at this kind of collaborative model in the first place. I'm going to show you a little bit about what Elucidat's doing to help make that model more robust and protect the quality of it. And then David at Aviva has been living and breathing kind of collaboration for years, and he's going to be talking you through what else you might do to help make the model work for you and give you some tips based on his experience. So David, over to you to kick us off, really.
Marvellous. No, thank you, Kirstie. And look, let's start with a quick acknowledgement of the kind of the challenges that L&D are currently facing. You know, we're in huge demand since the pandemic in particular, as the rise in digitization of content and the need to be variable in how we deliver has rapidly increased. And that's putting huge pressures on teams who create and source content, you know, across our industry. When you compound that with rising costs, we've all heard and seen the issues of inflation and the challenges, and budgets are being stretched. You know, how do we do more with less becomes an even more kind of feat of mountains to climb. And then it just gets even harder as we start to think about it. You know, there's more need for expertise. We keep hearing about the transformation of the workforce and digitization and automation and robotics. What new skills will that need? And then we've got the challenge of the business. You know, we still need to deliver, meet our customers' needs, and our learners are typically time-starved and have incredibly high expectations in the world that we live in. They are consuming content left, right, and centre, and so what good looks like has rapidly risen. So, you know, the industry, the world we're in right now is not without its challenge, but we should caveat that it's not insurmountable. And I think that's what we really want to try and get into in our session is this is doable, and there are ways in which we can tackle these, but we shouldn't walk past these challenges that I'm sure we're all facing, and hopefully we can relate to.
Yeah, insurmountable. I guess it can feel like that a little bit. And one of the kind of metaphors we use is we talk about the iceberg. So it can sometimes feel like you're just scratching the surface within your L&D team, and then meanwhile, underneath the water, it's kind of building up this kind of backlog. And you know, the types of learning that are being asked for as well maybe are starting to change a little bit as people look towards that skills focus that you talked about and where the gaps are for the future. So yeah, it's good. Sorry, David, what were you going to say?
No, I was just gonna echo what you kind of said there, Kirstie. And I think, you know, it's important to not let the backlog, because we've all got one. You know, there's always going to be learning that you can't get to, or work that's in the queue. You know, and I think it is very much about kind of refocusing. And what I really love about this metaphor is, you know, you can't see the ocean, as it were, but you know, your energy should be very much focused on like what are those critical needs. And that's why I really like this model is, like, you can't do everything. You can't boil the ocean. You know, you can only focus on your kettle. And I think, you know, putting that energy into defining what goes into that kettle is time well spent.
And having a little bit left to have a cup of tea as well. That sounds good.
That's always helpful. Yeah.
I wanted to share this. So this is a content matrix that comes from the latest research report from Red Thread. It's a report that actually Elucidat's got its hands on early, and we're able to kind of give away to people who get in touch with us, or if you're at the World of Learning event, seeing us talk about this very subject, then you can come over and find us as well. But so they share lots and lots of great advice in their report about addressing the content dilemma in L&D. And what this shows is that, you know, actually L&D can't do it all, and you need to take a new view on the types of content that you're being asked to do in your organisation. And this kind of simple matrix breaks it up into durable content, so long shelf life content, and perishable, the stuff that flies in, definitely needed, but then isn't needed maybe a few months later. And then you've got the generic content. We all know that sort of stuff, leadership development, safety, security, etc. And then you've got the highly specific stuff that you need in your organization, the skills that your organization needs to kind of keep ahead and stay ahead in a competitive environment as well. And that's the sort of content that is quite interesting to have a look at, I think, in terms of how you might be able to collaborate with employees to be able to get that done. So classically, in come your SMEs or your subject matter experts. And they don't call themselves that. Of course, they call themselves lawyers or accountants or product managers because they have a day job, right? And it's just that L&D call them this SME, which usually throws them off because they think you're talking about small to medium enterprises. And maybe they're given a project to do. So maybe in that desperation to tap into the backlog or the bottom part of the iceberg, projects might get thrown out to an SME to do, maybe without some guidance, which is where things can go a bit wonky. But David, what do you see happen when SMEs are brought into the projects?
I mean, this is like where it's a bit of a damned if you do and damned if you don't kind of moment, whereas we are experts in learning and experts in the creation of content, but not experts in accountancy or sales or marketeering. So, we have to work with our subject matter experts regardless. And I think, as we work more and more closely with them, empowering them to create their own content, absolutely is the way forwards and is how you tackle that lower end of the iceberg. But I think we might come into this. The bigger risks are, around quality, around volume. One of the tongue-in-cheek comments I often make is it's, the typical habit of an SME is to vomit on a page because they want to impart all of their knowledge and all of their wisdom and all of their understanding, and sometimes mistake that, what really matters. What is it my learner really needs to know? And bringing that kind of learner lens to the experience is usually a shortfall. But that's where we shine, and that's where we bring brightness. And that's where our consultancy and support and guidance is more pivotal than ever before in equipping our SMEs to think about the learning journey and the outcomes that they're trying to deliver. And I think another thing to be mindful too is it even a learner need? One of the things we need to be respectful to is our learners' time. We talked about time starved as one of the challenges. It's easy to assume learning is the answer. And I think spending enough time at the beginning of a conversation with an SME can really help delineate, is this a resource? Is this a course? Is this coaching? Is this guidance? What is it? Because it might not always need what you think it is at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that. And that kind of boiled down way of doing a very quick, rapid needs analysis in a way that makes sense to somebody who's a novice in terms of learning design is something that we try and do as well with our customers. But the vomit on the page is what you said. And, sometimes the expectations doesn't quite match up to the reality of what you get back. And that is, of course, if your SME project has got off the ground. So while 50% of L&D teams at the moment are reaching out to SMEs to create projects, we do know that some of those, they kind of drift, they get started and they never quite get finished. And that is because it can be tricky. There's barriers to be able to kind of get your learning project done. It can be difficult to do if it's not your day job and it's not your specialism. But where you do get high enthusiasm, you do get a project done, then sometimes the quality can go a little bit wonky, either from too much getting put in or because maybe there's a lack of stories, examples, activities, the sorts of things that we know drive learning. And instead it can be a content dump. So we don't want that to happen. So, and I think part of that is because an SME needs very different things to help them shine in that situation. So what they're really good at is their area of expertise. And also they have hopefully some empathy with the end users. They should be kind of close to that. So in our mind, they really need minimized choices. There's no way a subject matter expert should be coming in to do an e-learning project, for example, and deciding on the brand and the layouts and maybe even the flow. Maybe even the learning design of it. Maybe that should be done for them first, if they've never done a project before. So Ready Style templates is something that we suggest. but also the ability to be able to easily collaborate and get reviews done, because you don't want them to hit that magic button and create a release. In fact, we would suggest you take that button away from them and don't give it at all. But they need to be able to bring people in, either teammates who are going to help them create good content, or a learning designer who knows about learning. So all those sort of things help e-learning managers with the kind of quality expectations. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing at Elucidat to support this kind of model and make sure that quality goes hand in hand with being able to bring SMEs in to produce learning. So we've introduced a new workflow in Elucidat called guided authoring. And what it means is that when a guided author comes in, like a subject matter expert or a novice, they're not starting from scratch and making decisions that they don't need to make, but instead they're given a template that's been created by their team. So it's got the brand and the style, but it's also got some guidance in it. So here, for example, you can see for some product knowledge, which often subject matter experts are brought in to produce, then it will give them some guidance as to sorts of things to put in there, what to say, what kind of image to drop in. So here they're asked to pitch their product in 30 words, and they do that over there on the right. So just simply swap it out and put some text in. And this is what we're talking about making reviews easy. So in Elucidat, for example, you can now tag a colleague and bring them in to do a quick review, either of a specific part of a page, a whole project, whatever you need. And taking away that ability to release a project, actually. So from the e-learning manager's point of view, they can see that a project's been reviewed hopefully by a learning designer in their team. It's been given the thumbs up, and then they can do the release. So it's a very simple view. We're not going to go into demo mode, but that idea of giving a different workflow to guided authors is something that we believe quite strongly in, because it's very different than a more advanced author's kind of look. So we're calling it collaborative content creation. As I say, there's lots of different ways to describe this, but it's collaborative because ideally you've got someone who's a professional learning designer supporting an SME to help that model work. And the more the SMEs produce projects, then the more they start to shift up towards being advanced. But of course, it's helping them get started to help you remove that kind of backlog of projects. So David, at Aviva, you've been working collaboratively on projects and bringing experts in for a long time. I wonder if you could talk to us about that kind of model and what are the tips you give, I guess, to making sure that can work.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we've highlighted in the discussion already, this afternoon is, we need to unlock the reach and the potential and the resources that our kind of wider community has. Lots of learning needs. So it's very much about centering the enablement of those SMEs to move at pace. And a lot of what you've already described in the Elucidat features, Kirstie, are kind of really come into play. So we start here by talking about kind of setting standards. So, what does good look like? And even at like a very basic level, like, what is brand? What fontage do you use? What's your hex color index? What's your accessibility criteria? All of these things, we take for granted, I think, as learning designers, because we kind of just know it. But, a subject matter expert isn't thinking about that. They're just thinking about, getting their information and building a product. So, setting that framework for what good learning is and how to approach good learning design, is getting them established. It doesn't need to be war and peace. At Aviva, we've got standards that cover a one-pager, and aligns to our corporate values. So it makes sense and it speaks to our people. We're touching on templates, so we take away the complexity. There's nothing scarier for anyone, even a new L&D designer. I've got a blank project. Like, where do I begin? And that blank page is terrifying if you're not naturally creative at best. But let's not walk past it. It takes time. So we can expedite manufacturing, production, and release if we've got those templates. And I think it's okay to paint by numbers. You can still paint a gorgeous Picasso if you color in the right way. And I think that's the role that L&D has to play here, is help shape the outline of what the gorgeous Picasso will look like, and then equip and enable the SME with the right colors to colour it as they need. And that will really kind of simplify and kind of bring it together. And then I guess underneath that, you know, is not losing sight of the sense of community. You know, what this allows you to do is to extend the reach of your team and the thinking about, you know, where learning is and how it shows up in your organization. You know, just because we have L&D on our job title doesn't mean we are the owners of learning and we shouldn't let anyone else encroach our land. If anything, the exact opposite. You know, we need to reach out to the community. We're here to help serve and support others. And so by identifying who your SMEs are and your collaborative creators will be, one of the things we've done really successfully at Aviva is create that sense of learning community globally. So, you know, once you get access to the ability to create content, you join that community. We have events, we have lunch and learns. You know, we're talking to each other, we're working with each other. You're not reliant on my experts now, as Kirstie, you say. So the more you do this, the better you get. And so you've got a collection of SMEs, all at different levels of capability. Some have built, you know, tens of or hundreds of these solutions. Others are starting on their first time. And it's about working together and sharing that journey, which I guess is then underpinned by, you know, a rising tide raises all ships. So everyone gets better. You know, the L&D designer learns more because they've got more space to think about the outcomes and the journey and the style and the format. The SME grows because they get a sense of appreciation of transferring knowledge and growing their own capabilities and simplifying what they say. You know, one of the best ways to learn is to teach. And so, you know, all of those elements kind of really come together, but keeping it very, very simple. Set standards, don't be shy or be afraid of templates. Bring that sense of community together and invest and grow together to achieve the collective shared outcomes that we're all trying to reach, which is ultimately help our people be better at what they do and dream big about their careers in our organizations.
Brilliant. I love that, because it's, you know, it's not just about you and the L&D team getting your job done or breaking down your, you know, breaking through that capacity crunch, I guess. But actually, it sounds to me like it's about learning culture and, you know, employee engagement, which, you know, when you get involved with the project, you're more engaged with it. You hopefully start to spread the word and so on. So it starts to impact learning culture through the organisation as well.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, if you're watching this before the World of Learning, which is in Birmingham, Tuesday and Wednesday, the 11th and 12th of October, then you can come and find us at stand E160 when you come to the event. If you're watching it afterwards, then of course you can come and drop us a line, go to the Elucidat website, and you can come to us if you want to find out more about collaborative content creation. We've got lots of thinking and resources around it, but also we've got that fantastic paper from Red Thread Research on addressing the learning content dilemma, and we'll gladly give you a copy of it. So thanks, David, for joining me on this chat today, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.